Welcome to Capitalize Your Finances, the podcast that's your ultimate guide to mastering personal finances and unlocking the secrets of entrepreneurship. Each week, we dive into the world of personal finance and business development and have fascinating conversations with industry experts, seasoned entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who share their insights, strategies, and stories to help you get ahead in life. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur looking to scale your business or someone just starting out on your financial path, this podcast is your go-to resource for inspiration and actionable insights.
Welcome back to Capitalize Your Finances. As always, I'm your host, Christopher A. Poniotu, certified financial planning professional, the Cap and Capitalize. And on today's episode, we are going to do another round of answering your questions, answering fans' questions too. But as always, before we get into that, the free advice for the day. Don't overcomplicate the steps to financial success. If you don't know where to start, contribute up to the match of your company's retirement plan. Then, if you have high interest debts, above 6 to 8% for sure, order those from highest to lowest and pay off those highest debts first and continue until you have debts below that 6 to 8% range. Once that happens, take that free cash flow and increase your retirement plan contribution by that amount. And until you max out your company retirement plan, don't think about anything else. If you never max out your company retirement plan and are quote unquote stuck, congratulations. You are going to retire with millions of dollars, and that is okay. That's all. That's the free advice for today. Pretty nice. So, with that being said, we need to get into these questions, and these are some fantastic questions, and I'm very excited to answer them. And we're going to start with Evan Grealish. So she asked me, Chris, we totaled our car on the way to Montana, and we'll be buying a new one in the coming month. Is there any benefit into taking on a partial loan, or is it always best to just pay in cash and be done with it? It would not affect our emergency fund. If we finance it, I hate paying interest. That last part, Evan, is what you need to lock into because it always comes down to the interest rate. So I get it. You totaled your car, and because of that, you're probably ticked off, whether it was you or someone else. Let's just say it was someone else. You've got a discomfort in your life. Now, the good news is you told me it will not affect our emergency fund. Fantastic. If you wanted to pay off the cash or not. I could also argue that means you probably have too much in your emergency fund, but that's beside the point. Get back to the interest rate. So if someone comes to you and says, hey, we have a 0% APR for 72 months, and I've seen that on commercials recently, that's why I was thinking about it. Think about the rate of return that you're putting on that money. Why would you go and just pay for the car in cash today when you can extrapolate that over 5 or 6 years, depending on what deal you get, for 0%? I mean, even if you had the money to pay for the car and it's in your emergency fund, which is hopefully an online savings account. Online savings account, as of this recording, are earning about 4%. Let's call it that. So what if you had your emergency fund money off to the side in your savings, that cash above and beyond that, you just start trickling down to pay that 0%. Well, by the time you get to the end of that, you will have actually earned a return on your money. We call that capitalizing the spread. You take that rate of, let's say, 4%, and it's dwindling down that 0% over time. Well, that's your spread of 4. If the interest rate was 1% or 2%, 4% minus whatever that rate is, that is the spread that you're earning on your money. That's what the most successful people in the world do with multi-billion-dollar businesses. And you, my friend, can do this by capitalizing your finances. Now, I also understand that you hate paying interest, but you've always got to think about the rate of return. We do know that in the long run, you could earn, hypothetically, compliance people, get off my back here, you could target around a goal of 7 to 8%. Again, it's not guaranteed, but that variability, whether it's 7, whether it's 8, whether it's 6, That's a lot more than 0. That's a lot more than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if the interest rate is high, and that's the best interest rate you got, at that point, like let's say they said that, hey, we're going to give you, because maybe your credit is bad. I'm just assuming here. I'm not assuming, I'm playing hypotheticals. So you got a high interest rate and you've got the cash in your account. You're just going to pay for that car because the reason why is that is the rate of return that you're earning on that purchase. So a lot of people get really defeated when they have like a credit card and the yield is really, really high, like 27%. Well, yeah, you need to pay that off as soon as possible because that is the rate of return that you are earning on your money that you are paying down. Now, it gets a little gray if the interest rate is between 6 to 8%, because we know in the long run, net of tax and being a little bit more conservative here, that should be a good goal as what you're trying to earn for the long haul. However, what that doesn't account for is the tax side of things. So I don't know your situation specifically, but let's say that you do have free cash flow and you go, okay, do we put more into the down payment on this car, or do we take out a loan over that period of time and pay that 6 to 8%, but we still have free cash flow after that, but we haven't maxed out our 401k and or individual retirement account if someone is not working in the household or has access to a retirement plan. Because the greatest investment that you can guarantee is not an actual investment, it's the taxes you avoid. So then the answer is pretty obvious. You want to make sure and you max that thing out. Maxing out meaning the retirement plan side of things. So it really isn't as simple as you may, it's not as easy as you may think, but it is very simple. The only exception to all of that is if cash flow is just really, really tight. Because if cash flow is really, really tight, I don't even care if it's a 0% interest rate. You're going to want to pay that thing off because you can't take another loan out because then you're just so tight. Or in some cases, you're actually dipping into your savings, and that is an absolute huge no-no. So hopefully that answers everything that you need to know about your car loan. I get that you hate paying interest, but instead of hating paying interest, think about it from a non-emotional standpoint of, okay, what is the rate of return that I am paying on this debt versus what is the rate of return that I could potentially earn in the long run? And then lastly, what is the rate of return that I could earn from the taxes that I could avoid if I am not utilizing these vehicles to the best of my abilities? Vehicles meaning retirement plan, not the actual car. All right. You're welcome, Evan. Now, number 2, Brandon White. Should I put more money into my 401k or company stock option plan? So part of this is really easy. Part of this is not really easy. So I'm going to start with the easy. The answer is your 401k. Very similar to Evan's, my tangent with Evan's question earlier. The best investment return that you can guarantee is not an investment, it is the taxes you avoid. And notice how I said the best investment that you can guarantee. You cannot guarantee the company's stock option return. You cannot guarantee the underlying investment return within your 401k. But whatever money you're putting in to your retirement, if you put it in Roth, yes, it's tax-free, okay? So there's really no tax strategy there, except in the long run, where you'll pull that money out when you retire in Roth IRA and Roth 401k money will be tax-free. But with a 401k, if you contribute before you pay the taxes, that is where you are guaranteeing the avoidance of whatever your tax bracket is. So if you're in the 25% tax bracket and you go and max out your 401k, or you're putting money into your 401k, every dollar that you put in, you're earning 25% on that dollar that is not going to taxes. And that doesn't even include if you live in a state like California, where you have state and local tax if you live in San Francisco, which would absolutely suck if you had all of those taxes. But that's beside the point. So that's the easy side of the answer. The not easy part of the answer is it does come down to the company that you work at and understanding the company that you work at. So again, I answered the easy part in like the guarantee. What isn't easy is actually understanding the business. And this is where it gets a little philosophical and a little convoluted in the mind, but I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible. So let's say that you work at a company and it's really small, whether it's a startup or it's just a smaller company, but it's just growing. It is just blasting revenue left and right like you wouldn't believe. And you can see the growth trajectory is going to be substantial. There does come a point where tax strategy, I'm not saying it's not important, but there are times where you kind of have to put that aside because now you're trying to get cute with something that you don't need to be cute with. So I'll use an example of a company. I'm not going to say what it was, but this was 4 or 5 years ago. There was one of our portfolios. We invested in a company and it was about $10 a share when we started. And in about 9 or 10 months, the stock got up to about $100. So 10 times your money. Now, you could have tried to been cute and said, hey, if we wait till a year instead of paying ordinary income tax, because if you sell within a year, you pay ordinary income tax. If you wait a year and longer, it goes to a lower tax bracket in the form of long-term capital gains. You could have done that. Or you could have just said, I 10x'd my money in 10 months, which is insane. And even with the worst tax bracket I could possibly be in, I'm still ahead net 50, 60%, depending on where you live. And so at that point, you just need to cut bait and run. And I say this with the company stock option plan because if you truly understand the business and you actually know what you're doing on the valuation side of things, and you actually see that growth rate, I'm not saying is going to 10x your money in 10 months, but which is an anomaly, by the way. But you know that growth is going to be substantial. Sometimes you got to go against the grain a little bit of traditionalism. So most of the time, I would say the 401k is the right option, but who knows? You might work for the right company, and that stock option plan might be your ticket to an immense amount of financial success. Now, before we get into Jesse Swink's question, we are going to take a quick commercial break, and then we come back. Jesse, I am coming at you. Stick around.
Are you ready to transform the way you approach sales? This episode is sponsored by the second book in the Capitalize series, Capitalize Your Sales, the all-in-one sales framework that saves you from ever struggling again and teaches you how to sell with sincerity, which dives deep into the art and science of driving sustainable growth. Packed with strategies that go beyond surface-level techniques, this book will help you understand what it takes to truly connect with clients, build long-term relationships, and close deals. Whether you're looking to fine-tune your sales craft or break through to the next level, Capitalize Your Sales offers a roadmap to success designed for today's fast-paced business world. Head on over to your favorite bookstore, order today, and start capitalizing your sales immediately. And now, back to the episode.
Welcome back to the show. Jesse, I hope you've been waiting patiently because we are here, and by we, I mean me, to answer your question. Any investment/accounts you'd open for an incoming child? I just think of the visual of an incoming child, just like someone just firing a cannon of a child, just like across the room, and you wide receiver catch him over your head. But that's beside the point. Yes, there are a number of things that you can think of when it comes to an incoming child as far as accounts. So most new parents are, when they're asking for like children accounts, they're thinking of education accounts. And by education, I'm talking college or post-college. And typically the go-to account for college planning for a child is a 529 plan. Now, there's reasons for that. You put the money in, yes, it's after tax, but then that money grows tax deferred. And then if that money down the road is used for qualified schooling expenses, and there's a laundry list of them out there, all of those gains are tax-free. Now, you can also use it for high school, middle school, and preschool if you want to have your child go to a private school. You can use it for trade school. You can use it for medical, law school, but it's got to be qualified. The issue with the 529 plan, though, because there are some setbacks with it, you're kind of stuck because if your kid decides not to go to college, not to do trade school, not to do any of these things, you've got this fat lump sum of money that you're going to have a pretty nice little penalty. I believe it's 10% if you take it out after the fact and it doesn't go towards the actual qualified expenses. Now, there's a little wrinkle with that too, because you can take up to $35,000 if a 529 plan has been around for 10 years. This is a relatively new ruling with the 529 plan. You could take that $35,000 and you could actually roll it to a Roth IRA for your child. But even then, if you're planning this early in your incoming child's, future, you're going to have a lot more than $35,000 in this thing. So if you are wanting to provide a child with access to an investment account at like a later date, typically the go-to accounts out there are UGMA or UTMA accounts, Uniform Gift to Minor and Uniform Transfer to Minor accounts. I got to be honest, they're not as commonly used anymore. I can tell you, I mean, I had one growing up, but they're kind of archaic. And the bummer with those is once your child becomes of age, which depending on the state you live in, anywhere between 18 and 21, for better or worse, your child is going to have full access to that account. And you can think back to yourself at 18 to 21 and think how responsible you were. That should kind of scare most parents. But I will say, if you teach and educate and enlighten your children accordingly, by the time they get to that age, it could actually be an immense gift for them, not only for the obvious reason financially, but just from a knowledge standpoint, because then not only do they have the responsibility of becoming an adult, they have a responsibility of now managing this money that, let's face it, you or your advisor have helped grow over this period of time. And what better way to provide immense responsibility than teach your child over the years how you're managing it and what you're doing, and then you give them the keys to the castle and they're ready for it at that point. So again, there's a mixed bag. You could open a Roth IRA and start funding that, but you got to make sure that they have some type of income attached, because when you open an individual retirement account or a retirement account, you have to have some income from a tax standpoint to match that contribution. You can't just give it because you feel like it and it's tax-free. And again, very similar to the UGMA or UTMA accounts, eventually your kid's going to get it. And most people want their child to have access to this stuff a little bit later in life when they're a little bit more mature and they understand the value. But on the flip side, it pays for your kid to know what he or she owns. And lastly, and let me backtrack. There's a lot more out there that you can do, but I'm talking about the big ticket items that I think are going to give you the most value. So the last one I was thinking of, and this one's a little bit more obscure, it's actually permanent life insurance. It can be valuable for a number of reasons. So if you go to a life insurance company and you ask for a permanent life insurance policy for your child, they are going to try to sell you everything under the sun within that life insurance policy. And that's not right. And if I were you and you wanted to utilize permanent life insurance for your child, what's kind of cool is I've seen planners make the argument where permanent life insurance can actually be used as a Roth IRA alternative. And then you've also got a death benefit to it. When your child gets old enough, he or she can take a loan from the cash value of the permanent life insurance policy to go and pay for a down payment on a home or duplex or education. There's a variety of different reasons. And unlike a Roth, you're not actually penalized for that. However, the flip side with that is permanent life insurance can be extremely complex for most people. It really shouldn't be, but most insurance experts, quote unquote, they tell you a lot of this nonsense to make it seem a lot more complex. And then they attach your emotional unintelligence of the policy with the closing statement of basically, you just have to trust me. And you're so bombarded. And of course, if you're a new parent, you're just trusting whoever's going to help you, even though the bar might be very, very low because in most cases you're sleep deprived. So, you just got to watch that with permanent life insurance. And I also want you to know, I could have gone really deep into the weeds with all of these, but I just wanted to give you the first step of options that are at your fingertips. And unfortunately, you're going to have to just figure out what works best for you. But if I gave you just a blanket starting kit, I would look into a blend of the 529 plan, Roth IRA, and permanent life insurance, honestly. Yeah, permanent life insurance. So that is it for not only Jesse. So you're welcome, Jesse. That is it for the show today. And I love answering these questions. Keep them coming. Keep sending me a DM. Keep sending me, whether it's on our social media or through our podcast website, or just shooting me an email directly. I've really appreciated all of these, and there will be more, plenty more of these throughout the year. So, as always, I'm your host, Christopher A. Paniotu, the Cap and Capitalize. And until next time, keep capitalizing. Take care. As always, thank you for joining me today. If you have questions about today's episode or any personal finance questions, please reach out to me at Cap and Capitalize on Instagram, Chris at capitalizeyourfinances.com, or via our website, capitalizepodcast.com. If you want more Capitalize Your Finances content, head on over to capitalizepodcast.com and check out our blog, free resources, book, and online course. As always, I'm your host, Christopher A. Paniotu, Certified Financial Planning Professional, the Cap and Capitalize. And until next time, keep capitalizing.
The information provided should not be considered specific tax, legal, or investment advice and is not specific to any individual's personal circumstances. Each taxpayer should seek independent advice from a tax professional based on his or her individual circumstances. This material is gathered from sources believed to be reliable. However, its accuracy cannot be guaranteed. These materials are provided for general information and educational purposes based upon publicly available information from sources believed to be reliable. The information in these materials may change at any time and without notice. You should always seek counsel of the appropriate advisor prior to making any investment decision. All investments are subject to risk, including the loss of principal. Examples cited are hypothetical, are for illustrative purposes only, are not guaranteed, and subject to potential federal and state law amendments. There's no guarantee that you will achieve the results discussed or illustrated. 401k benefits may be subject to change at your employer, the governing pension, or benefit organization's discretion. IRA withdrawals will be taxed at ordinary income rates. Withdrawals prior to age 59.5 may also be subject to a 10% penalty tax. Roth IRA distributions of principal from a Roth IRA are tax-free. However, any earnings will be taxed at ordinary income rates, and a 10% penalty tax will apply if withdrawn prior to age 59.5 or within 5 years of the date the Roth IRA was established, whichever is longer. Distributions of principal from a Roth 401k are tax-free. However, any earnings will be taxed at ordinary income rates, and a 10% penalty tax will apply if withdrawn prior to age 59.5 or within 5 years of the date the Roth 401k was established, whichever is longer. Your investment options are limited with the Roth 401k to those offered by the plan administrator. Charges and fees may be incurred. Earnings from a 529 college savings plan can grow tax deferred and may be withdrawn free of federal taxes when used for qualified education expenses. Non-qualified withdrawals are subject to a 10% penalty tax. Christopher Paniotu is a registered representative with, and securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. Capitalize Your Finances LLC is a separate entity from LPL Financial. Capitalize Your Finances is not registered as a broker-dealer or investment advisor. CRPS conferred by College for Financial Planning. LPL Financial Insurance License Number 0518721. LPLIA Insurance License Number 0B91442.